Welcome to Asenso Tayo Leaders, where we bring you real stories from leaders like you so you can lead with more clarity, direction, and confidence.
Welcome to the Asenso Tayo Leaders podcast. I'm Michael Back. As always, I'm joined by Maria Asoro, and we just finished our chat with Charm Melhem from Pivot Wealth. Oh my gosh, I was just blown away by that chat. But Maria, you hadn't actually met Charm before.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting that the first time you meet someone is interviewing them on a podcast. But I just love to know straight off the bat what your impressions were and how you describe Charm, having now spent a nice little hour and a half with her.
I really love the fact that, first time meeting Charm, you can see leader. It's really evident that she does have a strong persona or personality, but all throughout the conversation, just really so warm, very grounded and humble, and so relatable because she talks about her humble beginnings, talk about her progress and how she got to where she is right now, and really touched on a lot of techniques actually. There was just so many things that these guys will so relate to, particularly those that is very tailor fitting to like the Filipino culture and how we are raised and things like that. So
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
cool.
I
Yeah.
mean, Charm's a Cebu local, so there's a lot that she'll have in common with our Filipino leaders. But yeah, she covers ground around communication and how to feel more confident in being open with
Yeah.
the people in your team. I loved when she was talking about the idea of not really being given a series of steps or a process, but learning from doing and being comfortable getting it wrong. And I think my real favorite part, and it's been so nice. I've been working with her for 6 years and haven't really worked with her much in recent history. And just seeing how much she has evolved and grown, and like the person who she is now compared to who she walked in the pivot, it's a breathtaking rate of growth. And, they say that leaders aren't born, they're made. And she has curated, crafted who she is and the way she sees the world and the way she chooses to act. And if I was to put it down to one word, it's just braveness. She's found this way to be more brave, to feel comfortable outside her comfort zone.
Yeah.
And she's received a lot of tangible rewards in, job title, remuneration, trips to Australia, and that kind of thing. But I think, as you'll hear at the end, the real reward for her has been the internal benefits that's delivered to her. So, yeah, wonderful chat. Really appreciate her time. I think we should dive straight into it.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, would like to introduce to you from Pivot Wealth, the delightful Charm Melhem. Welcome to the Asenso Tayo Leaders podcast. I am Michael Back. As always, I'm joined by Maria Asoro, and we both have the pleasure today of also being joined by Charm Melhem from Pivot Wealth. Now, Charm joined Pivot, who are Australia's most awarded financial advice business in 2019, and is now their longest serving employee. And since 2019, she has consistently moved her way up through the ranks. And look, for those of you who haven't heard of Pivot, they're probably Australia's coolest, I'd say almost most admired financial advice brands. They are definitely a business that constantly people come to me and say, how can I be more like Pivot? And Charm has been the quiet achiever, the one behind the scenes who has powered the growth and success of Pivot, kept things moving, and more recently stepped up into a role where she's really helped make sure that the business stays at the forefront of the industry through innovating the way that they deliver their service. Personally, as a business coach, have had the pleasure of working closely with Charm over the years. It's always been an absolute pleasure collaborating with her on a range of projects. And today we get to add a new project to our list, which is podcast episode. And so I'm so excited to be entering new territory with you today, Charm, and also getting to have a wonderful chat to unpack some of your wisdom and experience with our leader audience. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Charm to the Asenso Tayo Leaders podcast.
Yeah.
Hey guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
is our absolute pleasure. We were so delighted when you said yes. Tell you the truth, I reached out to Ben and I said, I'm going to reach out to Charm. I really want her on the podcast. And he's like, yep, she'll be amazing. But if she's a bit hesitant, let me know and I'll put the sell on her. But we didn't have to do that. You said yes straight away. So thanks for jumping into the deep end. And I think you mentioned before that this is the first podcast you've been on.
Yeah, it is. I was actually a bit hesitant at first. And like I said, it's my first time. I don't know what to talk about or if I'm even interesting enough to talk about things, but I thought, why not? Like, it's a great opportunity to try something new as well.
I promise you, you're interesting enough.
Yes.
There is no question. And by the end, all of our listeners are going to know why we've said that.
I hope so.
I promise. And you're coming to us today from Cebu. And we'll probably get into this in a minute, but you don't live in the Philippines anymore. But what brings you back to Cebu for a bit of a holiday?
I'm actually now residing in Canada, and I actually will plan the trip around my visit to Sydney. So the Ben and Iang and the Pivot team has asked me to come visit the office. It's our 10th year anniversary for Pivot, so it's a great chance for
Wow.
me to also meet the wider team. And I thought Sydney and Cebu were pretty close by compared to Cebu and Canada, so why not make the trip as well here to spend time with the family?
Yeah, nice. I got to spend some really nice time with you at the 10th birthday party. It was a very fun event, a suitable party for 10 amazing years, hey?
Yeah, definitely.
Why don't we catch our listeners up on your journey? I think it would be really good just to bring people to the present day and let people know how you got here. For listeners who haven't met you before, and Maria, who only just met you 2 minutes before we started recording. Let's just start with your journey, and not just your career journey, but your life journey. I would love you to just imagine your life was a book. What would some of the different chapters of the Book of Charm be?
There's definitely a lot of things involved with how my life has changed throughout the years. I didn't finish, and I'm not sure if a lot of people know, but I didn't have any bachelor's degree. I actually stopped school in the middle of a semester on my second year of university because I wanted to earn money as soon as possible. That's my main motivation at the time. I see all these professionals and I want to be like them. And at that time, the call center industry was booming. And I was like, this is a good way to help my family as well and do the things that I want to do. And to be honest, like studying is not my forte. I need overstimulation to be able to focus. For example, if I'm watching a TV show, I would need to do a puzzle or play on my phone to be able to understand. So that's how my brain works. So yeah, I joined the call center industry, started as a technical support engineer, one of the biggest BPOs in Cebu. And from there, I think with how I'm looking at myself, I'm more of I love to learn things. And so I didn't just stop. Even from the very first career that I've had, I already started looking at how could I grow in the business. So I took up certification in my first job. I was, I think, 19 at the time and moved up to becoming a senior engineer or a tech support level 2. Started helping my team lead doing QAs and training the new people coming through. I stayed in that business for almost 7 years. So I tend to stay in businesses like that. I'm a very loyal person, I would say.
Sounds like it.
And so then I shifted to a different role, more on like retail POS support, but it's still around technical support and things like that. And then I heard about the other center where they're not really doing calls. I've been taking calls for at this point maybe over almost 10 years, I would say, frontline support and escalation support. So I was like, maybe I can try doing like virtual assistant work. So I applied in that job. Actually, at the time, Ben was only looking for 2 people, I heard, and I was the last person to apply. But I think based on my personality test on wealth dynamics, He's like, I'll get 3. So we were actually called, when I started in Pivot, we were 3 girls and we're called iMac girls because we're the only ones in the office who use Mac.
Is that
In
because Ben insisted? Was Ben like, you
Yeah,
can't use,
definitely.
he's very Mac
Definitely.
loyal, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So we have this big iMacs in the office. So yeah, with that, I started my journey in Pivot. And there's actually a question when you start in Pivot as someone new. They would ask you 3 questions. And one of the questions is asking, like, what's your spirit animal? And when I think about my spirit animal, I would also always say a lion because I'm a Leo and I feel like I'm very courageous and like things like that. But now I feel like I'm more of a chameleon because of how I adapt to
Mm.
things. Recently discovered that as well. And with the company that I've worked with, I'm stepping into different parts of the business, doing frontline support, doing some leadership stuff, managing my team when my manager was away, or moving into new areas like marketing systems, which I don't really have any idea about. But each of those steps, they weren't really planned perfectly. I leaned into like these opportunities will help me grow. That's how my mind or how I think most of the time. And that's led me here essentially.
Now, you mentioned wealth dynamics, and I think this part of the episode's getting to know you. And I think personality tests are a great way to get to know someone. So, what is your wealth dynamics profile? And for those people out there, maybe just explain what that means.
I'm more of a steel, very critical thinking, very introverted as well. So yeah, more like critical thinking.
Okay. I think that's a really interesting point for a lot of people out there is they think that leadership needs you to be like really out there and hugely extroverted. And yeah, leaders come in many shapes and sizes. And a lot of people don't think introversion and leadership go together, but I think you're great proof that they certainly do.
And Charm, when you got a chance to do that, the personality test that you took, was there something there that was new to you, like something that you just knew about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't imagine myself to be very critical thinking. I'm more of
Mm,
I go with the flow, things like that. But
yeah.
yeah, really thinking about the result and
Mm.
how when I read about it, it's like, oh, this is actually I'm very
Oh,
patient,
with the
some
details.
diligent,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm,
very attention to detail. And sometimes you don't think about
yeah.
like that. I mean, you don't think about yourself like that because
Mm,
you're too zoomed in. So getting that zooming out and reading that someone says something about you, and
mm,
read it on paper, yeah, that was
mm.
quite eye-opening.
Yeah. Or maybe because you're also very humble. That's maybe one of the things too. But was there a specific, what do you call this, profile in that assessment and profile that you thought you were? And then all of a sudden, oh, you were surprised. Oh, I was analytic.
The thing about it is like getting the control. Sometimes like people say
Ah.
like I'm a control freak. I want everything planned out. All the trips are in a spreadsheet with timestamps, and sometimes I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I just want things like
To be organized.
nice and organized. But yeah, getting like controlling everything sometimes to an extreme point. And yeah. And also, I think the good thing about it is understanding the results and saying, like, oh, there are some
Yeah.
things that you can shift around. Being in control all the time doesn't really work. So, shifting your mindset and saying, like, oh, I can be a little bit flexible around here. Yeah, that kind of things.
I'm curious, Charm, to know more about like when you mentioned about starting off in that VA industry, in that business, and you started working as a client service administrator. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And how did you move to the next phase, and what were the stages to where you are at right now? Because it's pretty amazing how that journey was. And when Becky was talking about you, I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to talk to her. Like it's some great inspiration for, as you're aware, many Filipinos would definitely like to know more of your story as well, because they're also in the same page. They're also in the same boat. So, what's that journey from CSA to where you are now?
It was actually, when I think about it, and it was almost 6 years ago. So apologies if I'm trying to remember the details, but
Been a big
it's
6 years.
Yes.
It's actually very organic. Like I mentioned, there were three of us. And I guess maybe because of my very keen attention to detail, Ben would give me things like little things here and there. Oh, maybe you can try setting up this email automation. This is the platform. Maybe you can do some research. And I've always told Ben as well. I've proactively told him I'm very keen to learning new things. So I think that's where his confidence started to grow in the work that I do. And I also make sure, and I think it's because of the Lord profile, that I always make sure that my output is also exceptional. So from
Mm.
there, those little things started to pile up, and then he would trust me more on. At some point, I became his executive assistant. So I would be replying
Ah.
to messages on his inbox and things like that. So it was very organic. There wasn't like, hey, we need someone for this role and you go do it. And then I started doing implementation. So we had some people in Sydney who were handling implementation. And then they left the business. And Ben was like, want to try this out? So I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? Let me try it out. And it was actually my first time doing face to face client meeting on Zoom, at least doing
Mm.
client meetings. It was nerve wracking, like nerve wracking. Like you wouldn't imagine the first few ones that I've had, I would be like lost in thought or
Mm.
would show different forms. So that actually helped me gain confidence in talking more. Because I think
Yeah.
practicing on your communication would help boost your confidence as well. So that's where I started. Oh, this is
Mm.
actually really nice work too. And I've learned new things. I've started reading more about how do you communicate well with clients? What are the good habits that you can develop to be able to communicate confidently? So that's what I try to do when I start doing new things. I tend to like do research, see what's the best thing to do there to be able to succeed in that role. And then from there, we started hiring more people as the business grew, especially during
Mm.
COVID time, post COVID, where people probably panicking about their finances, and we got more clients joining in. So we were lucky at the time. There were a lot of uncertainties in the business
Yeah.
after COVID. During the start of that financial year, we were actually lucky to get more clients. So we started hiring more people in Cebu, and that's when then, like, you're the longest team member in Cebu. Why not try leading the team there?
Mm.
So that's where I started really my leadership
Ah.
role. I help the team out, train them, and at the same time, any new team members that join the business in Sydney, I also tend to be like the initial trainer on systems and tech for the processes, since I know the process of the business, all the processes and all the
Mm.
stages of the business from start to finish. So I do those trainings with them. And yeah, from there, as you know, when you train someone, you also have to develop certain skills. So
Mm.
tend to, yeah, I tried reading up on like being a trainer, being confident enough to provide the information you want to train your team members up on. And the biggest shift in my career would probably, I'd say, last year when I started helping out with HubSpot. That's our new CRM, and building out the process, looking at the business
Mm.
in the bigger picture sense, and really mapping out each and every process, and then moving that into HubSpot and helping out build that CRM
Yeah.
from the initial sales to up until they renew. That was the biggest shift. And yeah, that's where it led me to becoming the systems and project lead.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And I think the one that you mentioned about COVID, I don't think that's luck, my dear Charm. I think that is a testament of how well you've worked despite the uncertainties. Because I'm sure you're aware, a lot of Filipinos really struggle, definitely. And us as well, probably most of the people as well in Five Elk. There were some of those who really struggled personally and things like that. But the fact that you grew, that is just absolutely on a different level. So yeah, that's really good. When you mentioned, Charm, about when you took on HubSpot, it's a CRM system, I assume, from sales to like ongoing mail and something like that. Was there any other step that you did? You've mentioned you tried to learn on your own. Did you enroll yourself for some training on the technical side of things, or was it like pretty much, okay, I'm just gonna run with it and see what I can look into or how to do it.
Yeah, so with HubSpot, and spoiler alert, I don't know a thing about HubSpot.
Oh
We
my
had a meeting.
gosh.
What?
That's an amazing taking a
No,
leap.
it's the first it's the first time I've heard of it during the meeting. Okay, we're shifting to a new CRM.
Wow.
It's called
Yeah.
HubSpot. Then we were meeting with some of the developers because obviously there's things that we can't handle in-house. So we hired a developer company and they would do the custom codes and things like that. But
Yeah.
while they were explaining, I was in the Zoom. I remember I was in the Zoom and I was just like, what are they talking about? But I told them like, yeah, sure, I think I can take it on. So I started reading up on it. They have a lot of videos that you can watch on YouTube. And really for
Ah,
me, the biggest one that I can think of when I was trying to learn that software and anything that I've tried to learn before is trial and error. For me, there's nothing wrong with trying things. Just try it. If you fail, try again maybe. But if you succeed, what a feeling that is.
I think that's something that definitely makes you unique, Charm, because all over the world, people I've worked with, there's often this reluctance to try things because you don't want to look stupid
yes.
or you don't want to show the people around you that you don't know what you're doing. But also, it's just that kind of fear of failure, too, of going, oh, if I don't get this right, what does that say about me? And I think people are often waiting for the perfect set of steps so they can proceed with confidence. Whereas I found it really interesting hearing you talk before about not proceeding with university. And it's almost like I learned by doing, not by sitting in a classroom and being told what to do. So you're like the polar opposite. And I just would love you to talk to that. What's the experience like in reality of trying and failing? And why do you think it potentially is a better way than waiting for the perfect plan before you start doing something?
I think for me, I'm an overthinker, to be honest. So when I fail, I really take it personally. But at the same
Mm.
time, I've actually learned to shift my mindset. Working in Pivot, that's one of the biggest things that I've learned is shifting your mindset is very powerful. So when I try to do things, and I have a most recent example wherein I'm setting up AI videos for Ben, where you can
Oh,
put anything
really?
you want, and
Mhm.
I don't have any idea how to do that. And I'm like, and then you have to set up an automation to send it automatically to customers, making sure that their name is correctly said. And I told Brad, like, yeah, let me give it a try. I failed probably more than 5 times to generate the video,
Uh,
but I just kept failing and trying. It's shifting my mindset and saying, it fails now, but it's not really affecting anything in the business. So sometimes the fear comes from, oh, what if I create this video and it sends to the client and they receive this funky video? I just tell myself like it's not having an impact. There's no police who's gonna if you fail, you're not gonna go to jail and get caught. I just try it. If it doesn't work, I try different avenue, try different things. And also, it's very important to stop yourself as well. Like you've tried it 5 times. If it's not working, there are people around you, there are resources around you who can
Mm,
help you. And that's one of the things that I've learned as well is that you can try and fail as much
mhm.
as you can. But at some point, you have to say, this is out of my capability. Let me
mm.
try to see if there's someone else in the business who can help me.
So there's probably people listening out there now who their own teams are kind of scared and not scared, but like reluctant to try new things and they're waiting to be told what to do. And sitting there now listening, going, oh my gosh, I just want a charm in my team. Like, how do I make my team more like a charm? And so I suppose when you mentioned before that pivot has helped you shift your mindset around trying things and not being scared of failure. And I can certainly speak to that from Pivot's point of view too, that publicly it looks like it's been a seamlessly successful journey. But
Mm.
I've seen all the behind the scenes challenges and setbacks and a lot of the dips in that up and down journey. So they exist for everyone, right? obviously what Ben has done really well, and not just Ben, but like the leadership team at Pivot, is created an environment where you feel safe to try things and where it's okay to not get it right 100% of the time. I suppose being on the receiving end of that, what are some of the things that the leaders at 5L and beyond 5L can do to create more of a culture within their team of trying things and innovation, and I suppose making their team feel safe to experiment and not necessarily have all the answers and to learn from doing?
So leaders set the tone for the team. And I think that with Ben and the rest of the leadership, they're very honest. They always admit, like, we don't have all the answers. And that's what makes me feel safe to do the same. Like, oh, they're leaders, they're managers. Ben is the owner. He founded Pivot, and he is now admitting that he doesn't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers, and I can admit to that as well. Always asking open questions. I think that's what leaders should be doing. Open questions, getting that feel that this is an open communication, this is a two-way street, and that you tell me things and I take that into consideration. And that's what Pivot does very well too, because we have this thing called Pivot Time, wherein we ask from every team member what they think we can drive more efficiency, how we can, grow the business. And it's not just the leadership telling people like, you should do this, you should do that. It's more of like an open communication and giving space, especially in meetings, giving space to the team members and responding without judgment for sure. That helped me become more comfortable to share things as well.
Mm.
And I'm gonna touch a little bit around the culture, Charm, and I'm sure you might have experienced this as well. In the Filipino culture, typical Asian, probably in general, there's that huge expectation in school, getting an ace, the mom expecting to be part of putting a medal onto you, being the top notcher or whatever achievement. Did you also experience the same? Because it's going to be a huge shift from somebody who would potentially have that mentality and then shifting to saying, I actually fail. I don't know what to do. That's going to be a huge shift. So I want to know, did you have that same kind of childhood, probably like mine, and for most of our listeners as well, for sure? Have you had that? And how did you like change over time? Was there somebody that influenced you aside from the guys in Pivot?
Yeah, so definitely, even now, my parents have this sort of like hall of fame in the house where you have all my siblings,
I told you about Katie.
graduation, yeah, university graduation pictures all lined up, and I'm not there.
What?
So yeah, because I haven't graduated. I actually spoke to Ben about it when I was in Sydney, and it was like, "Do you want us to give you like a certificate so they can put it up on the wall?" So no. So yeah, there's definitely that culture. There's big expectation, and I think it comes from a good place where, your parents want you to succeed. But in different cultures as well, there's a different mindset. So I think for me, I love reading. I love reading a lot, and I love reading self-help books because before I was so insecure, to be honest. Like I would not speak up. I would just like, yeah, I'll do it. But now I'm more transparent. I'm more confident and sharing my thoughts and ideas, which sometimes they can be good ideas, sometimes they can't be. But what's good about it is you shared it with the wider team. And I think, yeah, reading those self help books and shifting my mindset, actually admitting that, hey, this is something that I'm lacking. I need to be more confident. I need to have more self esteem and higher self esteem. And just getting to that point of admission has helped me greatly with, oh, I'm researching on what are the books that I can read. Not giving a heck of what other people say, getting their opinion and understanding where they're coming from. Actually, recently did a session with one of Ben's business coach, one of their team. We did the model of the world. So understanding where people are coming from and how they're responding to things also helped me how I respond to things. So Yeah, I did a leadership training with Abundance Global. So it's a leadership pathway, and they have really good packets on like how you can develop as a leader. What are the good qualities that you can develop to be a better leader? So that really helped me as well. Once
Yeah.
you start shifting your mindset and not just accepting things as they are, but also opening yourself up to new learnings, new
Mm.
perspective from other people is actually really great once you start learning how to do that.
And so, since you mentioned that there often, a lot of times, as you say, I don't know what to do here, I'm also interested to know how do you then, Charm, stay calm in those situations wherein you have to say yes because, it's your role. You're already in that leadership role. Like everybody's looking up to you. Oh, Charm can do this. But how do you stay calm in that? And you're really uncertain in yourself. At the back of your mind, you're uncertain. Is this going to work?
I always believe that the only permanent thing in the world is change. So a lot of the times that's where my mindset is. Things can change. And when things feel unfamiliar to me, I just remind myself like this uncertainty is temporary. And sometimes when you're
Ooh.
working and you're too focused on the granular details, sometimes you miss a lot of things. So what
Mm.
I started doing is I actually try to zoom out of things, just take a breather. Breaks are very important as well. So I try to zoom out and see the bigger picture. Like,
Mm.
why am I doing this? What's the purpose? What's the impact of the thing that I'm doing? And then from there, I get to break things down into smaller steps. Oh, this is actually where I can prioritize on. And getting that clarity of the impact of the work that you're doing actually helps a lot with any unfamiliar situation. Ask the right questions to the
Mm.
leadership. Ask them, what's the expectations from me? What are your expectations from me in this project? What's your definition of done? Once I have those lists, I get to zoom out and then get to look at the smaller steps. That mindset actually helps me ground myself instead of being too overwhelmed.
It feels to me like you've rewired your relationship with discomfort. And instead of going, this is horrible, I want to run away from this, you almost have changed how you think and go, oh, usually this leads to good things, or usually this is the feeling I have before something exciting happens. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And human as we are, I think our first response is either fight or flight, right? So I think, yeah, shifting your mindset and rewiring your brain helps you achieve great things.
And so for people out there who go, "Oh, I would love that, but I'm still in that fight or flight feeling whenever I'm out of my comfort zone." What are some of the things that you've done that have made you feel more comfortable with that? Or I suppose what are some of the strategies that you'd recommend that they bring into their tool belt?
One of the things that I've learned, and something that I actually have to really learn, because when I start working, I work nonstop. I could sit in front of my laptop for 6 hours nonstop just to finish work.
Mm,
I'm very particular with my work. So
mm,
learning to take breaks, that's very powerful. At first, I was like, nah, 15-minute break won't do anything.
mm,
But actually taking that 15-minute break can help relax your brain
mm,
and refocus, like shifting your
Mm.
focus. Like you go back and suddenly I have this, oh, this is an awesome idea. I just took a 15-minute break and I have a new idea. So
mm,
that's one of the things that I do. The second thing is actually preparation, being prepared, asking the right questions, getting away from being fearful of
mm,
asking the right questions. I've learned that as well as Maria with Asian culture and being Filipino. You're always like, oh, we don't want to talk about things or we don't
Mm.
want to ask questions because I'm afraid that I'm going to be penalized for asking a question. I have to actually learn that as well.
Mm. Mm.
And I believe in there's no stupid question. Like, ask your question, and then if the answer is there, we will give it to you. If not, then, we'll try to shift things. So, asking the questions to the leadership and
Mm.
getting that confidence as well back from the leadership, they would always let me know, like, we started doing 131. So that's one of the things that I've learned as well. You have one question, you try to search for three possible solutions, and then
Mm.
you choose from those three possible solutions, and then you
Mm.
present that to leadership. So that's one
Mm.
of the things that I learned as well.
I love that. I'm gonna write that down because I'm gonna use that too, Charm.
Yeah, it's really good, isn't it? I'm going to be transparent here. We've just built a communications training for all of our CSAs and team members, and I borrowed the 131 in one of the strategies for how to deal with a problem, a task that's gone off track. How do you communicate to your boss that it's gone off track, but you have a suggestion for how to get it back on track? So thank you to whoever taught you 131, because I have borrowed that and repurposed it a little bit for that training. I think communication is a really great place for us to move to, because we reached out to Ben before this podcast actually to ask him a bit more about what makes you awesome. And firstly, just to give you a compliment, Maria listened to it and said, I want to be more like Charm. How can I be more like Charm? That's it.
How to be
yeah,
you.
Yeah, you've got a fangirl right here.
Yeah. And then I mentioned to Becky before this podcast, okay, we're ready to charm tomorrow.
And one of the things that Ben said to you, said about you, is that he loves how open you are in your communication. So he said, yeah, it's like what's happening in your personal life, and you're not hiding things that are happening in your personal life and putting on this brave face. You're open about what's happening in your personal life. If you need help at work or outside of work, you're really good at asking for it. If you feel overwhelmed and overloaded with tasks and need to go, hey, sorry, I got too much on, we need to reprioritize this, or whatever the case may be, you're really vocal in that. And not only is that something you're good at, it's actually something that he really appreciates and values about you. Now, I suspect that mindset might be a bit of a shift for a lot of people out there who go, oh, hold on, I thought I have to hide that stuff, or I thought that was a sign of weakness. But it's something you've got really good at. So is that open communication, is that something that you've always been good at, or is that something you've had to learn as you've progressed through Pivot?
So I used to actually hesitate to speak up, as with Filipino culture, we're sort of very down to earth, very shy, and I wasn't brought up with the right tools to be able to communicate openly. But I realized sooner rather than later that open communication actually saves so much time, and it helps build trust. And maybe Ben can attest to that. I feel like just saying things as it is and as they come up actually saves a lot of time and removes that barrier of being confused or being doubtful of things. Over time, I practiced clear communication, asking questions early rather than waiting for the ninth hour and, things starting to break. I'm very proactive. I learned being more proactive with my communication rather than reactive, sharing updates. Even when I don't have the answer, I would tell Ben, like, I don't know how to do this. Give me time to do it, and I'll give you an update once I know more. That's usually how I would phrase things. And that's become second nature now for me.
I'm guessing sometimes when you're having those types of conversations, maybe if they're a little bit difficult, or you're saying something that might, I'm sure there's moments where you're still a little nervous when you have to communicate things, but I'm guessing it used to be a lot harder. Is the key for someone who feels like communication's not a strong point for them, is there a way to make it easy, or is part of the trick to just get comfortable with the discomfort, knowing that it'll get less and less uncomfortable over time?
I think that's one thing. And especially with the BPO industry, and most Filipinos and look at clients and managers like they're on a pedestal, and you can't touch them, you can't talk to them, you can't communicate to them. And I think just taking a step back and seeing them as humans, they have understanding, they have comprehension just like you. And that's actually the first step. At first, I was very shy, and Ben and I would have meetings, and he would tell me things, and he would ask me to do things, even though I wasn't confident. I would just like I'll do it because he is the client, and I feel like I have to do everything that he says.
Mm,
But obviously, I made some mistakes in my career, and he would tell me like, if you just told me that you couldn't do it,
mm,
then we could have prevented this, and that would actually shifted my mindset and said, oh, I didn't know that was allowed. I didn't know that I was allowed to say that I can't do it. I didn't know that I was allowed to say no. So
Mm.
getting that from my leadership as well was a good strategy from them.
That's it for part 1. Stay tuned for part 2 with Charm Melhem.